Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with workers on the picket lines. Folks who support people who are deaf and hard of hearing are fighting for better wages. Hearing services workers are on strike in Windsor and across the province, 200 of them. Outside the local Canadian Hearing Services building, staff have formed a small picket line, eager for the issue to be resolved. The workers include counselors, audiologists, and interpreters. They provide vital services to deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing people across Ontario.
We want to be working right now. We don't want to be out here.
The CUPE 2073 members have been on strike since Monday, and it's the second strike in 8 years. Last time it lasted 10 weeks, and the union does not want to see that happen again.
We didn't want this to break down, and we didn't want this to happen.
CBC reached out to the company, but no one was available for an interview. In a news release, they said they're focused on resolving the dispute. The company says it had proposed a one-year contract with an overall compensation increase of 4.9% that it said was turned down. But the union says that was not a wage increase, but a bump across all benefits. Plus, they were given 24 hours to respond and didn't have enough time to get the offer interpreted for their deaf and hard of hearing staff members. The company claims the union asked for a 30.5% compensation increase, which the union says is not factually accurate.
It's unfortunate because that 30.5% is not a wage increase. It was the total input of proposals from all the members.
Like more leave and better pension. The union says it is actually asking for a 2-year contract with a 2% wage increase in year 1 and a 3% wage increase in year 2, but says the company has refused to entertain it at this time. The workers say they support thousands of people throughout Windsor, Essex, and they're just eager to get back to their jobs and support their clients. Carly Green is a hearing care counselor for the company, working with seniors who need in-home care for their hearing issues.
We're all really concerned about our clients. I know that in my program working with seniors, a lot of them don't have access to this care any other way. They need these services for us to be able to come there. So we would really just like to get back to work. In an email to CBC, the company says there are no negative impacts on deaf and hard of hearing people in Windsor as services continue. However, online it says audiology clinics are closed and other services are available but on a priority basis. The next bargaining day is scheduled for May 6th. In other local news, the Stellantis Windsor assembly plant will be shut down next week as the trade war with the U.S. drags on. But the company is not pointing to tariffs as the reason behind the closure. The company says the change is in preparation for 2026 models. They're scheduling a down week as part of plans to finish production on 2025 Chrysler Pacificas and other minivans, plus the 2025 Dodge Charger Daytona. The plant is closed for the week beginning May 5th, and the company says it will continue to monitor the situation. And we had a wet morning as this storm rolled into Windsor, and it looks like it may have caught some fishers off guard. You could see them getting soaked there, and that is a really good time to bring in our Colette Kennedy with that first look at weather. Colette, definitely a stormy, rainy day today.
Yeah, a really soggy day. It didn't stop there this morning. It's the gift that keeps on giving. So another wave, kind of the heavier stuff has gone through, and you see the lightning strikes with some of the embedded thunderstorms. We're into a bit of a reprieve, but there's still more storminess to come through. So another band or wave, although it should weaken somewhat. So keep in mind, we're still going to have some wet weather into the evening hours. By about midnight, we'll see things kind of winding down and improving. 12 degrees overnight tonight. As we get into some sunshine tomorrow, that temperature pops up to 19 degrees, but still a risk of some morning showers.
Okay, thanks, Colette. Up next, after an already unprecedented 6 months in Canadian politics, the next stop on the agenda is a new session of Parliament. The CBC's Cameron McIntosh looks at the preparations.
Now elected, Prime Minister Mark Carney working through a long to-do list, setting up his government.
You have internal preparations to make, from staffing up your office to selecting your cabinet. Then, of course, externally, the Prime Minister has, and this incoming Prime Minister has an enormous amount of work and some really huge priorities that he's already outlined.
Chief among them, talks with U.S. President Donald Trump. Carney ran on a promise to protect Canada's economy and sovereignty from the U.S.
He's going to come to the White House very shortly, within the next week or less.
Carney also facing demands from the provinces. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith calling for a reset of the relationship between Alberta and Ottawa.
I will be talking with the Prime Minister and making our case very, very clearly about what it is that we think we need to do to reset and be that energy powerhouse.
Meanwhile, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has not spoken publicly since losing his seat in Parliament and status as opposition leader. Poilievre is said to be shoring up support to remain as leader. The Conservatives will need an interim opposition leader in the House of Commons.
Whatever decisions are made moving forward about how to represent our party in the House of Commons right away, those are going to be had. But at this point, I'm behind Pierre Poilievre as our leader.
Also looking for an interim leader, the NDP. Jagmeet Singh stepping aside after the NDP's worst showing ever, reduced to just 7 seats. The party will meet next week to plan next steps.
Absolutely, it's going to be a lot of work. But people don't become New Democrats because they're afraid of work. You know,
sure.
We're fighters, and we're going to come back, and we're going to be there.
Election results are still being validated. One riding, the Quebec seat of Terrebonne, flipped from the Liberals to the Bloc Québécois. There will be a recount. Currently, the Liberals are 4 seats shy of a majority. The Prime Minister is expected to speak publicly tomorrow, with Parliament set to start on May 26th. That will include a speech from the throne, officially setting the new Prime Minister's course. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Ottawa.
With some new and old faces joining the House of Commons, we wanted to know, what does a member of Parliament do? An MP brings the concerns of their community to the House of Commons in Ottawa. That's where issues are talked about, where policies are debated and voted on. In their communities, MPs and their team can really work with organizations, they can raise awareness about federal funds and programming, and they can also help people on certain issues.
They've got a certain magic with regard to, reaching out to the public service that individuals may not have.
That political expert says that they can help people fill out some assistance forms, things like the child benefit or unemployment insurance, or they can check on the status of these if they're taking too long to be processed. But for new MPs, how do they know what to do? Well, like any job, there's orientation. Each new member gets a liaison officer who helps them figure out their way their first few days in Parliament. Then they also will meet with subject matter experts who can help teach them about things like financial resources, security, and other information they might need to set up their constituency and their Hill offices. What if you were working with your MP on an issue, but you now have a new MP in your riding? Well, that process isn't actually set in stone. A House of Commons spokesperson told me that it's really up to your former MP about the information that they can or they will share with the incoming MP. Usually those files are shared, unless...
If there is documentation that's taken out the door, or is even destroyed, it's probably confidential, politically sensitive information that political parties would only share among themselves.
But if your MP was working with you on an issue, Fagan says it can't hurt to check in with the new office. The House of Commons is set to resume at the end of May. Jennifer Lagrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
The City of Windsor is still assessing the damage caused to the WFCU building earlier this week. A fire broke out on Election Day, forcing voters to another location. The fire caused $1 million in damage, according to Windsor Fire and Rescue Services. Mayor Drew Dilkin says because of the high cost, insurance will kick in to cover the fix.
We self-fund at the City of Windsor for any claim that's $250,000 or less. Once it breaches the $250,000 mark, it goes right to the insurance company. So we're insured. Something happened with some solar panels on the roof, which led to the fire that we saw. Thank God it was put out relatively quickly, but we're still getting estimates on exactly what it's going to take to make the repair. It's going to have to happen from the inside of the one rink. We're going to have to work from the inside up, and so we're just getting all of that engineering analysis done so we know how to best make that repair and get everything back and operational.
There's a new healthcare course at Holy Names Catholic High School. It offers aspiring medical professionals a hands-on approach to dealing with medical emergencies, teaching students everything from CPR to the Heimlich maneuver. Our Mike Evans stopped by to see how students are grasping the new skills.
before I send him off to the hospital, I want this object to be nice and secure, because I don't want Xander walking through the hallways and it knocking into things. It's potentially causing more damage. So I kind of pitched the idea to them, said, this is my experience with it, and I have a ton of background in medicine, and both in education and in clinical experience, and I just thought, why not? If we can bring it here, then we definitely should. It would benefit me and benefit the students. Definitely surprised with the popularity right off the bat, because this just opened in February. This is the first semester. We had 3 full sections and there was a wait list, and then it looks like the projections for next year are going to be 5, maybe 6 full sections as well, which is incredible. Today we're in our first aid segment, and so right now we're talking about impaled embedded objects. So right now they're practicing both an impaled object, let's say if it's in the eye, as well as anywhere else in the body. How can you secure the object so that we can make the transportation safest for the victim to get medical help?
Originally, I thought this class was going to be more like sitting down and just reading things. However, it's more hands-on than I originally thought. We're doing a lot of hands-on things with one another, testing out bandages, practicing CPR, so it's a lot different than what I expected. I think this is a great course, and I think it should be mandatory, personally, because it helps, you can save somebody's life.
I heard it was going to be like really hands-on, and you were actually going to like, rather than like memorize how to do things, you were going to actually like learn how to do it like with your hands, and that's pretty much what we do. Like every single time that we learn a new like concept or subject or whatever, we get to actually like physically do it, and I was really looking forward to that. We learned that like a lot of people annually will go into cardiac arrest, and how CPR can save like millions of people's lives if everybody learns how to do it. So I would say that was probably the most useful thing that we learned.
This is going to give you a little bit of a better result if you do it properly, because it's nice and compact.
Very cool. A former local NDP MP visited our radio studio this morning. It was in the wake of a demolition of NDP representation across the country, and felt here in Windsor with longtime MP Brian Massey losing his seat. Joe Comartin served the Windsor-Tecumseh, once known as Windsor St. Clair riding from 2000 to 2015. He spoke to Amy Dodge about what he thinks the party needs to do to stay relevant without official party status.
When Jack Layton took over the party, it was at the leadership level as opposed to at the ground level. I expect this time it'll probably be at the ground level, from help from the wings at the provincial level in particular. But I think that's where it'll be. A big deal of it is getting hopefully a popular leader as part of that, but the internal administration that's going to be required. There's been a lot of complaints about our administration over the years that it's not grassroots enough, and I think we saw some impact of that in this particular election. There were candidates that were foisted on local ridings that were not popular at the local riding level, that kind of thing. So there's a democratization that has to occur within the party, and I think that's one of the things that'll happen at this point, but it'll take some time.
There's a new furry face on the Sarnia Police Service. It had gone without a canine unit for more than 2 decades, but now it has one, and it is adding another. And Windsor Police Service is doing its part to help train the new pooch.
And so when we did our research as to who we were going to partner with and what agency, the name that kept coming up was, you have to explore Windsor, you have to explore Windsor. And enough people directed us towards Windsor that it just started to elevate in the rankings for us. And then another major issue with training with Windsor is the fact that it's relatively close to home. We then trained with Windsor for 16 weeks, which led into August of 2024. And then we had a deployable canine for the first time in 25 years.
All right, back pain afflicts a large number of us, and with mixed success, we turn to a variety of remedies. But here is one that your doctor probably would not prescribe. That's right, it is roller coaster rides, and a patient in Germany swears by them. You're going to meet the patient in a sec here. Ursula is 85, and 13 years ago she went for a ride on a whim, and pretty soon she felt something stretching, and since then she's added stretching of her own from childhood ballet class. The historic Tripsdale amusement park apparently has nothing against being billed as a cure for back pain. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. There are alarming new measles numbers being reported by Ontario's Public Health Agency. But cases are also on the rise across the country, and health officials are ramping up efforts to rein in the growing outbreak. Jennifer Yoon has more.
The number of measles cases in Canada is accelerating.
Ontario continues to break the record since measles was declared eliminated almost 30 years ago. 1,242 cases of measles so far this year. Alberta is reporting 193 cases, and the majority of the people getting sick in both provinces are children who are unvaccinated or under-vaccinated.
It's hard to contain because measles is so contagious. Symptoms include a fever, runny nose, cough, and a rash. There can be serious consequences: pneumonia, brain inflammation, and measles kills 1 to 2 people out of every 1,000 infected, even if they get the best medical care possible. But in some parts of Ontario, public health authorities don't know how many kids are fully vaccinated. Halton, Ontario reported less than a quarter of 7-year-olds fully vaccinated against the measles. But public health officials say they think more families have vaccinated their children without reporting it to public health.
Because Ontario lacks a real-time provincial registry into which all healthcare workers input immunizations at the point of immunization, Halton Region Public Health, like other public health units, rely on families reporting their vaccines to public health.
Alberta, on the other hand, keeps better track, but their vaccination rates are quite low in some areas. That's why the Alberta Medical Association is calling on provincial health authorities to do more.
We need to be seeing the medical officer of health probably on a weekly basis. We need to see vaccination clinics popping up. We need to make it easy for people.
We've requested interviews with the heads of public health in Ontario and Alberta. Both have said they are unavailable. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
The use of AI technology has skyrocketed in recent years, with many tapping into its power, including doctors, engineers, and students at McGill University in Montreal. Since 2023, they've been developing robotics and artificial intelligence to use in surgery. Our CBC News team got a peek at what they've been working on.
This is our robot. We called it Terry Sarcobot, okay, Terry for Terry Fox. The idea of these robots is to help us remove these very deadly cancers as precisely as possible with less cutting, less blood loss, more precision.
The surgical performance enhancement and robotics is a part of our department's to contribute to the shaping of the future of the surgery. It has more than 15 students, and we have more than 10 specialty collaborators working with us, developing surgical technologies based on robotics and AI. Our robots are not going to replace surgeons. Rather, they are there to augment their physical capability, to augment their skills. Now, with that said, we want to develop artificial intelligence that basically learns from expert surgeons and transfers that knowledge to our robots. Basically these are programs, right? They sit on the robot controller and they basically get cues from surgeons in the room or remote, and they operate under their command.
This is the project that is used for the orthopedic surgery. With this technology, they attach some markers and also using the robotic arm to align the bones during the surgery.
Technology will never replace a surgeon, but it will, I say, heighten our senses. And with this technology, not only robots, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, everything combined, we're able to attain things that are unimaginable in the medical field. And I think it will change in the next 5 years in something drastically different.
Just fascinating where we are at with technology right now. All right, stay with us. We're going to have Colette Kennedy back with us after the break for more on your weather forecast as we head into some cloudy days. But Colette says, don't worry, there is going to be some sun poking on through. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy joins us now for another look at weather. And Colette, we know that today was not a great, beautiful May day. How does it compare to what May is usually like?
Yeah, we can take a look at that. And in fact, when it comes to the temperature, we're really close to what would be a normal daytime high. You know, we do need the rain for, of course, nice green grass and beautiful flowers as we get into spring. But just checking out like a normal daytime high. Today we were up to 19, 20.7 would be kind of the average, taking this 30-year period. So at the beginning of the month, that would be a little bit lower. Towards the end of the month, perhaps a little bit higher, and it kind of averages out. Our lows should be around 10 degrees. That's what would be seasonal for the month of May, and it is a wet one. We trend towards almost 100 millimeters of rain today. Sort of helps with that, verify that figure, right? And it is the second wettest month because actually July, even wetter still. All right, there you are. There's that current temperature of 19 degrees that I mentioned, 13 Chatham-Kent, 16 for Sarnia, London coming in at just 10 degrees and lots of single digits elsewhere in the province. The breeze mostly coming from a southerly direction, and that kind of helped to get that temperature out of those mid-teens. There's kind of the wave of some of the heavier rain with embedded thunderstorms, a bit of the lull I was mentioning earlier in the show, and then back here we have yet another line. So we're not done with the wet weather. Still some soggy conditions to come as we move through the later evening hours. That's still got to rotate through, and then we'll be drying out closer to midnight here. And in fact, even seeing the clouds breaking up a little bit. And then towards tomorrow morning, yes, there's still some clouds, maybe a bit of fog, but primarily we'll get improvement as the day wears on. We'll get some sunshine there mixing with the clouds, just an isolated shower chance. Now that gets enhanced as we get into Saturday, kind of bookending the day in the morning, and then that passes through, and then again into the evening we could get into some wet weather, but hoping that kind of stays to the south of us to enjoy the weekend. 12 degrees overnight tonight. Yes, in some cases the temperature actually coming up from where it is now because of that southwesterly flow kind of kicking in. So moving into Friday, 19 degrees. Into Saturday, 16. There's that wet weather, especially the risk early. But like I said, there's even a chance later on in the day. It's not going to ruin the whole day the way it's tracking right now. Sunday, 17. Partly cloudy conditions. You will notice each day there's at least a chance of having some showers. So that kind of lends itself towards that rainfall rate of nearly 100 millimeters for the month.
For sure. Okay, thank you so much, Colette. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night.